There's a new Windows update that gives you more FPS in games. Steve from Hardware Unboxed tested Zen 4 and Zen 5 desktop CPUs in 40 plus games, and found a 10% average FPS boost with Microsoft's latest 24H2 update of Windows 11, with the best games performing more than 30% better. I mean, I've heard of downloading more RAM, but now it looks like downloading more CPU performance is here too. After seeing those results, I just had to know if this update applies to gaming laptops too. So I've tested 25 games to find out. But I had to use two different laptops, because while one of them did see some FPS gains, the other one not so much, and we need to know why. The newer 24H2 version of Windows 11 includes a branch prediction optimization update for AMD's latest Zen 5 processors. But AMD says that older Ryzen processors should still see a benefit, and as we saw, Hardware Unboxed found that Zen 4 desktop CPUs get a similar performance boost to Zen 5. But you don't have to use the latest 24H2 update to get the improvement, because earlier this week, the same optimization was backported to Windows 11 23H2 with this optional August 27th update. Which is great, because 24H2 is still in pre-release, and I suspect that most of you probably don't want to run half-baked Microsoft software. I started out by testing this gaming laptop with a Zen 4 mobile processor and RTX 4060 laptop graphics, as I figured mid-range specs probably better represent what most people are running. But at 1080p, I found basically no difference once we take the average from 25 different games. The mid-range laptop was just 0.4% faster with 24H2 installed. This graph shows how much faster or slower each game is as a percentage with the 24H2 update, and in most cases, the difference was just a few FPS, and within the margin of error range. It's not enough of a difference that you'd actually notice when playing, and the results were much the same at 1440p, which makes sense as this is a CPU update, and higher resolutions are more GPU heavy. But considering 1080p saw no real difference, it was starting to look like our mid-range gaming laptop GPU just wasn't powerful enough to see the CPU gains. We're just not going to see a performance improvement if the GPU is the limit, as this update affects CPU performance. But I tested those games at 1080p with settings that make sense on a mid-range 4060 laptop. So my options were either to try lowering the resolution down to 720p or lowering the settings in games, in the hopes that we get more CPU heavy. Honestly, I don't think either of those are great solutions, as a mid-range gaming laptop with this hardware is perfectly capable of playing pretty much all modern games at 1080p and 1440p, even with high settings. So that's why I tested another laptop. This time, I grabbed the fastest gaming laptop I've currently got with an AMD Ryzen processor, Asus's SCAR 17 with Ryzen 9 7945HX3D, which is basically a lower wattage version of the 7950X3D desktop CPU. And this one has RTX 4090 laptop graphics, which are slightly behind an RTX 4070 Ti desktop card from my testing. But do we actually see a performance improvement? For this one, I tried the 23H2 patch, instead of going to 24H2 like I did with the mid-range laptop. Well, there's definitely more of an improvement with this laptop compared to the first one. But still, once we average all 25 games together, there's less than a 2% performance improvement with the update. And honestly, given this hardware can run all these games fine at 1440p, even 4K in many cases, playing at 1080p on a maxed out laptop is already not the most realistic. Higher resolutions would see even less of an improvement. Take Watch Dogs Legion for example. This was the biggest improvement we saw on the 4090 laptop, but it only had a 5% boost with the update, which in this case is less than a 10 FPS difference. Not too much when you're approaching 200 FPS. But the lower powered 4060 laptop was the same before and after the update, so no difference with a lower powered laptop. Unfortunately, most of the other games tested were similar to Black Myth Wukong, with basically no noticeable change after the Windows update. update, presumably as they tend to be heavier on the GPU, even at 1080p with top-end laptop hardware. There's some debate as to whether this update only works with a fresh install of Windows. I chose to do in-place updates on both of these laptops, instead of a fresh Windows install, because honestly, I think that's what most of you are going to do on your laptop. Most people just aren't going to fresh install between 23H2 and 24H2. And if you're already on 23H2, absolutely no one is going to be reinstalling Windows for some random new Windows update. But what about Zen 5 laptops? So far, the two laptops I've had with AMD's latest Zen 5 processors came to me with Windows 11 24H2 straight out of the box. So they should perform optimally by default. I don't really think there's much point intentionally installing an older version of Windows on a Zen 5 laptop just to see if there would be a difference, if those laptops are never going to come with that older Windows anyway. Okay, but what about older laptops like Zen 3? Well, this update should apply to those too, like the popular Ryzen 7 5800H and 6800H. But with older laptops, your GPU is likely to be even less powerful than what I've tested with in this video. So in many cases, you're probably not going to see much of an improvement either. Of course, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't install the update. At the end of the day, technically it is free performance. Just don't expect noteworthy improvements when it comes to laptops unless you're very CPU bound. And even then, the difference seems to matter far less with laptop processors compared to what other people are finding with desktop processors. But on the other hand, something that you can do to practically improve the FPS of your gaming laptop is to lower the temperatures. And you can check this one out next to find out my top 9 tips to make your gaming laptop run cooler. I'll see you over in that one. Oh, and this video took a full 4 days of testing to complete too, so I'd appreciate a subscribe.